Please don't leave us here." The words barely escaped the child's lips, swallowed by the October wind that tore through the cemetery like something hungry. Marcus Whitmore stood frozen, white roses trembling in his grip, watching two small girls huddle against his wife's headstone as if the marble could somehow keep them warm. The older one pressed her palm to the carved name, her fingers tracing letters she probably couldn't read yet. The younger clutched a photograph so worn the faces had started to blur. They didn't see him at first. They were whispering to the grave. Praying maybe. Or just talking to someone who couldn't answer anymore. Marcus took a step forward and a twig snapped beneath his shoe. Both girls turned at once. Two identical faces. Same dark curls tangled by wind. Same amber eyes too wide for children who should be in school on a Tuesday afternoon. Same threadbare coats that hung off their shoulders like they'd been borrowed from someone bigger, someone gone. Girls. His voice came out softer than he intended. Are you lost? The older one straightened, trying to look brave even as her knees shook. We're not lost, sir. We came to find our mother. Your mother? Marcus felt his throat tighten. He glanced down at the headstone. Elena Whitmore. Beloved wife. Her light still guides us. His wife had been dead for 3 years. They'd never had children. The illness took that dream before it could even begin. But here stood 2 little girls calling this grave theirs. What are your names? I'm Sophia. The older girl's voice was steady but small. This is Lily. How old are you? 7. Sophia lifted her chin. We're twins. Marcus tried to smile but couldn't quite manage it. I can see that. His gaze dropped to their mismatched socks, the dirt under their fingernails, the coats held together with safety pins. Are you here alone? Sophia hesitated. Her eyes darted to her sister and back. Then she nodded. Our mama's gone. She said if anything happened we should come here. She said Mrs. Whitmore promised to help us. The wind picked up and somewhere in the distance a crow called out, harsh and lonely. Mrs. Whitmore? Marcus's heart began to pound in a way that felt wrong, like something breaking loose inside his chest. Yes, sir. Sophia's voice cracked just slightly. Mama said Mrs. Whitmore was an angel. She helped us when we had nowhere to go. Marcus blinked, and for a moment he saw Elena standing in this very cemetery 3 years ago, laughing at something he'd said about the weather, her hair catching the light like spun gold. She'd volunteered everywhere. Soup kitchens. Shelters. Hospitals. She never talked about the people she helped, always said kindness wasn't meant for headlines. What was your mother's name? Isabella Cruz. The name hit him like a stone dropped into still water. He didn't recognize it exactly, but something about it felt familiar, like a word he'd heard Elena whisper once in the dark when she thought he was asleep. Something about a woman who needed help. A woman who was scared. Lily reached into her small pink backpack, the kind with a unicorn stitched on the front, and pulled out a worn envelope. She held it up with both hands like it was something sacred. Inside was a hospital volunteer badge with Elena's face smiling out from behind cracked plastic. Beneath it, folded and soft from being opened too many times, was a note on cream-colored paper. The handwriting was Elena's, looping and careful. If you're reading this, I couldn't keep my promise in person. Please find Marcus. Tell him I kept my word. The girls are his responsibility now. Elena. Marcus's knees almost gave out. He crouched down slowly, the roses slipping from his hand and falling onto the wet grass. His vision blurred at the edges, and for a second he thought he might be sick. Where have you been staying? The shelter on Maple Street. Sophia's voice was quieter now, almost ashamed. But they said we're too young to stay without an adult. So we've been sleeping in the park. Under the slide. It's warm there when the sun's out. The words landed like blows. 2 children. Sleeping in a park. Because his wife had made a promise he'd never known about. You can't stay in a park. His voice came out harder than he meant it to. It's not safe. Sophia's chin trembled, and for the first time she looked like what she was. A 7-year-old child who'd run out of options. We didn't know where else to go. Mama said Mrs. Whitmore would know what to do. Marcus stared at the two girls and then at the grave behind them. Elena's name carved into stone. Her dates. The words they'd chosen together before she got too sick to speak. And beneath it all a promise he was only now learning existed. When those two little girls spoke Elena's name with such trust, something inside Marcus shifted. Something that had been frozen solid since the day he buried his wife began to crack. It reminds us that promises don't die with the people who make them. They live on in those willing to carry them forward. If this story is already touching your heart, let us know where you're watching from in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that remind us what it really means to be human. The wind swept through the cemetery again, colder this time, rattling the iron gates in the distance. Marcus looked at Elena's grave and felt the familiar ache rise up his throat like something drowning. Even in death she was still out here changing lives. Still keeping promises he'd never heard her make. He looked back at Sophia and Lily. At their small faces turned up toward his. Waiting. Hoping. Terrified. You can't stay out here tonight. Come with me. I'll take you somewhere safe. Sophia hesitated. Her hand found her sister's and squeezed. But you don't know us. Marcus swallowed hard. I knew someone who loved you enough to make you a promise. And if Elena made a promise, then it's my promise now. He held out his hand. For a long moment nobody moved. The world seemed to hold its breath. Then slowly, so slowly it felt like watching ice melt, Sophia reached out and placed her small palm in his. Lily followed, her fingers cold and trembling. Together the three of them walked out of the cemetery under a sky streaked with amber and fading gold. As they reached the gate, Marcus glanced back one last time. The white roses lay scattered on the grass in front of Elena's headstone, petals already beginning to brown at the edges. Elena. He whispered it so quietly the girls didn't hear. What have you done? They drove in silence through the city. The girls sat pressed together in the back seat like two halves of the same person, watching streetlights flicker past the windows. Marcus kept glancing in the rear-view mirror, catching glimpses of their reflections. Two small souls who'd somehow become his responsibility in the span of 20 minutes. Are you hungry? Lily's voice came soft from the back. A little. We had some crackers yesterday. From the church. Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel. He pulled into a diner on the edge of downtown, the kind of place Elena used to drag him to on Sunday mornings. Worn red vinyl booths and the smell of fresh coffee and pancakes on the griddle. A neon sign in the window blinked the word open in pink cursive. The bell above the door chimed when they walked in. A waitress looked up from behind the counter, her name tag said Marie, and she smiled the kind of smile that reached her eyes. She didn't ask questions when she saw Marcus Whitmore, one of the richest men in the city, walk in with two small black girls in threadbare coats. 3 cheeseburgers. Marcus slid into a booth and the girls climbed in across from him. And milkshakes. Chocolate for them. Coffee for me. Sophia folded her hands on the table. Her manners were careful, deliberate, like someone had taught her to always be polite even when the world wasn't polite back. Thank you, sir. Lily grinned and Marcus saw she was missing a front tooth. Mama always said to say thank you. Even when you're scared. Something cracked inside Marcus's chest. A hairline fracture spreading through old grief. Elena used to say almost the same thing. Gratitude is the first language of love. The food came fast and the girls ate like they hadn't seen a meal in days. Probably because they hadn't. Marcus watched them and felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Purpose, maybe. Or just the faint outline of what purpose used to feel like. After they finished, he drove them to Metropolitan Hospital. The building rose up against the night sky, all glass and steel and fluorescent light bleeding out into the dark. The smell hit him as soon as they walked through the automatic doors. Antiseptic and floor cleaner and something underneath it all that smelled like fear. It brought back memories he'd spent 3 years trying to bury. Elena's final days in a room just like one of these. Machines that beeped and hummed but couldn't save her. The doctor's voice, kind but helpless, explaining there was nothing more they could do. He approached the front desk. A woman in scrubs looked up from her computer. Isabella Cruz. The woman frowned and typed something. Room 407. But sir, she's in critical care. Visiting hours are restricted. These are her daughters. The woman's expression softened immediately. 4th floor. The nurse will let you in. They took the elevator up in silence. The doors opened onto a hallway that stretched long and white under flickering lights. Somewhere a monitor beeped. Somewhere else someone coughed, wet and rattling. Sophia clutched Marcus's coat as they walked. Do you think she's awake? I hope so. Marcus said it because he didn't know what else to say. She'll want to see you. Room 407 was at the end of the hall. The door was half open, and through it Marcus could see a single bed, a woman lying impossibly still under white sheets. Tubes ran from her arms. An oxygen mask covered the lower half of her face. The only sound was the steady electronic beep of a heart monitor, slow and fragile. Mama. Sophia's voice broke and she ran forward. Lily followed, both of them climbing carefully onto the bed, pressing their faces against Isabella's arms. Isabella's eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then sharpening with something that looked like relief and heartbreak all at once. My girls. Her voice came out barely louder than a breath. You found her? Marcus stepped closer. His shadow fell across the bed. You mean Elena? Isabella nodded weakly. A faint smile crossed her lips. She kept her promise. He frowned. What promise? Her gaze drifted to the twins curled against her, their small bodies shaking with silent tears. That they'd never be alone. That someone would love them the way I can't anymore. The heart monitor beeped. Steady. Relentless. Counting down time that was already running out. Marcus stood there watching these three people clinging to each other, and he realized that Elena had somehow orchestrated this moment from beyond death. She had always said her kindness would outlive her. He'd never believed it until now. Isabella's hand reached out, trembling, searching. Marcus stepped forward and took it. Her fingers were cold, fragile as bird bones. Promise me. Her voice was barely there. Promise me you'll look after them. Marcus looked down at Sophia and Lily. 2 children who'd lost everything. Who had no one left except a stranger bound by his dead wife's word. I promise. Isabella's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Now maybe I can rest. The monitor's rhythm began to slow. Isabella closed her eyes. Her chest rose one more time, then fell, and didn't rise again. Mama. Lily's voice cracked the terrible silence. Mama, wake up. Marcus moved without thinking. He gathered both girls into his arms as they began to cry, their small bodies shaking against him. A nurse appeared in the doorway, took one look, and slowed. Her face carried the kind of sympathy that came from seeing this too many times. I'm sorry. She said it quietly. Marcus held the twins tighter. Sophia whispered through her tears. She's gone, isn't she? Yes. Marcus's own voice broke. But she's at peace now. She said Mrs. Whitmore would be our guardian. Lily's words came out between sobs. Does that mean you? Marcus couldn't speak for a long moment. He just held them. 2 children who'd been through more loss than anyone should have to carry. Finally he nodded. Yes, sweetheart. It means me. That night Marcus didn't take them back to a hotel. He drove them home. To the Whitmore estate on the edge of the city, surrounded by oak trees and the sound of wind through leaves. The house rose up out of the dark, 3 stories of stone and glass that had felt like a tomb for 3 years. The girls fell asleep in the car, their heads resting against each other. Marcus carried them inside one at a time, careful not to wake them. He tucked them into the guest bedroom that still smelled faintly of lavender from when Elena used to keep sachets in the drawers. For a long time he stood in the doorway watching them sleep. The house felt different. Not empty anymore, but alive again. Filled with soft breathing and the faint sound of dreams. Later, alone in his study, Marcus poured a glass of whiskey he wouldn't drink and sat down in front of the fireplace. He opened an old photo album Elena had kept, the leather cover worn smooth from years of handling. Page after page of her volunteer work. Laughing with patients at the hospital. Holding newborns in the maternity ward. serving food at shelters on Christmas Eve. Then he froze. There, halfway through the album, was a photograph dated 7 years ago. Elena stood beside a young woman with kind eyes and a nervous smile. They were in front of Metropolitan Hospital, and Elena had her arm around the woman's shoulders. Beneath the photo, in Elena's handwriting, were 4 words: Isabella and her miracles. Marcus traced the words with his finger. His vision blurred. Elena had known. She had planned for this. Somehow she'd known that one day these girls would need him. He looked toward the hallway where Sophia and Lily slept. Safe. Warm. For the first time in who knows how long. Elena. He whispered it to the empty room. You've done it again. Outside the wind picked up, rattling the windows. But for the first time in 3 years the sound didn't feel lonely. It felt like an answer. The next morning Marcus woke to laughter. For a moment, still caught between sleep and waking, he thought it was Elena's voice. Bright and warm the way it used to fill every corner of the house before the sickness stole it away. But when he stepped into the hallway, he realized it wasn't Elena at all. It was Sophia and Lily. They were in the kitchen sitting on the counter, legs swinging, giggling as the housekeeper tried to teach them how to crack eggs. Mrs. Chen had worked for the Whitmores for 15 years, and Marcus had never once heard her laugh the way she was laughing now. You have to tap it gently, girls, or it'll explode everywhere. Sophia tapped an egg carefully against the bowl's rim. It broke cleanly, and she grinned like she'd just won something. Like this? Perfect. Mrs. Chen looked up and saw Marcus in the doorway. She smiled. Good morning, Mr. Whitmore. Seems you've got early risers on your hands. That's new. Marcus managed a faint smile back. They're sweet girls. Mrs. Chen lowered her voice just slightly. Though I'll admit I was surprised when they appeared. Are they related to Mrs. Whitmore? Marcus hesitated. Something like that. Mrs. Chen studied his face for a moment but didn't push. She never did. Breakfast will be ready soon. Lily climbed down from the counter and ran up to Marcus, holding a whisk like it was a trophy. We're helping. Mrs. Chen says we're chefs now. Is that so? Marcus crouched down to her level. Then I suppose I'm the lucky customer. She nodded eagerly. Do you like pancakes? I love pancakes. He didn't really. Elena had been the one who loved them. But somehow saying it felt right. Sophia smiled shyly from across the kitchen. Mama used to make them for us on Saturdays. With blueberries. Her voice faltered slightly on the word mama. Marcus's heart twisted. We can do that here too. If you'd like. After breakfast he made a phone call he'd been dreading. David Preston answered on the second ring. His voice already carrying that edge of concern mixed with curiosity that lawyers always seem to have. Marcus. I heard about the press coverage yesterday. Care to explain what's going on? I need you to come to the house. Marcus said. There's something we need to discuss. David arrived an hour later in a black sedan that looked too clean for the gravel driveway. He was tall, immaculate in a dark suit, the kind of man who spoke in press releases even when no one was recording. He raised an eyebrow when he saw Sophia and Lily chasing each other across the living room carpet. You've been busy. Marcus led him into the study and closed the door. Then he told him everything. From finding the girls at Elena's grave to Isabella's final moments in the hospital. David listened without interrupting, but his expression grew more skeptical with every word. And you've brought them here. Yes. They have nowhere else. David sighed and set his briefcase down. You do realize what this looks like? The media will have a field day. 2 children of color living in the home of one of the city's wealthiest white men. There will be questions, Marcus. Accusations even. Let them talk. You can't ignore optics. David's voice was careful, measured. The board's already nervous about your withdrawal these past few years. This could complicate things. Marcus's jaw tightened. Elena helped their mother. These girls are her legacy now, which makes them mine. David studied him for a long moment. You sound like her. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. After David left, Marcus stood by the window watching Sophia and Lily in the garden. Their laughter floated through the open door like sunlight breaking through clouds. For the first time in 3 years, the house didn't feel like a place he was haunting. It felt like a place he might actually live in again. That afternoon he drove the girls back to the hospital. Not to see Isabella. That part was over. But to handle the paperwork, the official documents that came with death. A social worker met them in the lobby. Her name was Patricia Morgan, and she carried a clipboard like a shield. Mr. Whitmore. She flipped through files with practiced efficiency. I understand you've temporarily taken the children in. That's correct. We'll need to discuss long-term arrangements, family placement, foster care options, guardianship procedures. Were you and Ms. Cruz related?
No.
But my late wife was their godmother. Patricia adjusted her glasses. Legally, that's not binding. Marcus met her gaze evenly. Morally, it is. She sighed. Mr. Whitmore, I'm not questioning your intentions. But this process takes time. There will be evaluations, background checks, court approvals. Do what you need to. Marcus kept his voice calm. But until then, they stay with me. Sophia clung to his hand, her small fingers gripping tight. Patricia hesitated, then nodded slowly. I'll start the paperwork. As they left the hospital, Lily looked up at him. Do we have to leave now?
No.
Marcus said it gently. You're coming home with me. She smiled, and something fragile but powerful lit up her eyes. Trust. On the drive back, the sun broke through the clouds, casting long rays across the windshield. Sophia leaned her head against the window, watching the city blur past. Do you think Mama's with Mrs. Whitmore now? Marcus thought about that. About Elena and Isabella. 2 women he'd never seen together, but who were somehow connected by something stronger than blood. I think they're both watching over us. That night the girls insisted on saying a prayer before bed. They knelt beside the guest room bed, hands clasped together like they'd done this 1,000 times before. Dear God. Sophia's whisper was soft as breath. Please tell Mama and Mrs. Whitmore that we're okay. And thank you for the nice man who gave us pancakes. Marcus stood unseen in the doorway. His throat burned with something he couldn't name. After they fell asleep, he wandered the halls of his house. Past framed photographs of business galas and charity events. Images of a life that suddenly felt hollow and distant. 4 years' success had been his armor against grief. Now it felt meaningless. In his study, he opened Elena's journal. The one she'd kept during her volunteer work. The first page began with a quote in her elegant handwriting. Kindness isn't duty. It's proof that our hearts still work. He turned the pages slowly, carefully, like they might disintegrate if he wasn't gentle enough. Then he found an entry dated 7 years earlier, and his breath caught. Isabella Cruz. Pregnant. Alone. Terrified. I paid her hospital bills. I told her she'd never be alone again. I hope I can keep that promise. Marcus closed the book and stared into the fireplace. Flames danced against the darkness, casting shadows that looked almost alive. You kept it, Elena. He whispered it to the empty room. And now it's my turn. The fire crackled. Outside, the wind moved through the trees. And for the first time in 3 years, Marcus Whitmore didn't feel like he was waiting to die. He felt like he might actually have a reason to keep living. The next morning arrived with pale light stretching through the windows of the Whitmore estate, catching dust particles that floated like tiny stars suspended in air. Marcus found the twins curled up on the living room couch, tangled in a blanket, fast asleep. He stood there for a long time, watching them breathe in perfect synchronization. 2 souls who had somehow become his responsibility. His purpose. Maybe even his salvation. He had lost so much. His wife. His direction. His faith that the world was anything other than cruel. But somehow, in a twist of fate he still didn't fully understand, Elena had given him a second chance. The girls stirred. Lily opened her eyes first, blinking slowly like she wasn't sure where she was. Then she saw Marcus and smiled. Morning. Morning, sweetheart. Did you sleep well? She nodded and sat up, her hair sticking up in about 17 different directions. Sophia woke next, more cautious, her eyes scanning the room before landing on Marcus. "Is it really Saturday?" Sophia asked. "It is." "Then we get pancakes." Marcus felt something warm spread through his chest. "We get pancakes." Mrs. Chen had the kitchen ready by the time they made it downstairs. The smell of butter and vanilla filled the air, and for a moment Marcus could almost see Elena standing at the stove, humming something off-key the way she always did when she cooked. The girls climbed onto chairs at the kitchen table. Their legs didn't quite reach the floor. Mrs. Chen set plates in front of them, pancakes stacked high with blueberries scattered across the top like little planets. Sophia stared at her plate for a long moment. Then quietly, almost to herself, she said, "Mama would have loved this." Lily reached over and took her sister's hand. "She's still here. Just different." Marcus sat down across from them, his own plate untouched. "The girls are very wise, aren't they, Mrs. Chen?" Mrs. Chen smiled softly. "Children see things we forget how to see." They ate slowly, savoring every bite like it might be the last good thing that ever happened to them. Marcus watched and realized this was what Elena had wanted. Not just for him to take care of these girls, but for them to take care of him. After breakfast, he took them to the garden behind the house. It was overgrown now, wild roses climbing over the fence and ivy covering the stone bench where Elena used to sit with her books. The girls ran ahead, their laughter cutting through years of silence. Marcus followed slowly. He stopped at the bench and brushed away the leaves. Underneath, carved into the stone, were words Elena had insisted on when they first moved in. "Love is work that never ends." Sophia came running back, breathless. "What does it say?" Marcus traced the letters with his finger. "It's something Mrs. Whitmore believed. That love isn't just a feeling. It's something you do every day even when it's hard." Lily climbed up onto the bench beside him. "Did she love you?" "Yes. Very much. Do you miss her?" "Every single day." Sophia looked up at him with those amber eyes that seemed to see straight through him. "But you're not alone anymore." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "No. I'm not alone anymore." That afternoon his phone rang. David's name flashed on the screen. Marcus almost didn't answer, but something told him he should. "Marcus." David's voice was tense. "We have a problem." "What kind of problem?" "The board called an emergency meeting. They want to discuss your recent decisions." "My recent decisions." Marcus repeated it flatly. "The children, Marcus. The press conference you're planning. They think you're becoming unstable." Marcus walked to the window. Outside, Sophia and Lily were trying to catch butterflies, their hands reaching up toward wings that danced just out of reach. "And what do you think, David?" There was a long pause. "I think you're finally becoming the man Elena always believed you were." Marcus closed his eyes. "Then that's all that matters. But there's something else." David's voice dropped lower. "Someone's been asking questions." "A detective." "Lorna Hayes. She's looking into Isabella Cruz's medical records. Into who paid her bills." Marcus's pulse quickened. "What did you tell her?" "Nothing." "But Marcus, if there's something you need to tell me, now would be the time." "I don't know anything, David. That's the problem." After he hung up, Marcus stood at the window for a long time. The sun was starting to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that Elena used to say looked like hope. But something cold had settled in his stomach. Something that felt like the beginning of a truth he wasn't ready for. The next few days passed in a strange rhythm. Marcus took the girls to their first day of school at the private academy on the edge of the city. The same one Elena had donated to years ago, back when she believed every child deserved a place that made them feel safe. The principal, a woman named Mrs. Jenkins with kind eyes and silver hair, greeted them warmly at the gate. "Welcome, Sophia. Welcome, Lily. We're very happy to have you." Anna clung to Marcus's hand. "It's okay." He said it gently. "I'll be here at 3. She nodded but didn't let go right away. Then finally, gathering courage from somewhere deep inside, she released his hand and followed her sister through the doors. Marcus watched them disappear into the building. He felt an ache in his chest, The same one he used to feel when Elena would leave for her volunteer shifts. Love and fear always traveled together. He spent the day at the office trying to focus on reports and meetings that suddenly felt meaningless. But his mind kept wandering back to the girls. To Isabella. To Elena's encrypted files that he still hadn't been able to open. At 3 o'clock he was waiting at the school gate. The girls came running out, backpacks bouncing, faces bright. "I made a friend," Mia announced proudly. "Her name's Sarah and she has freckles and likes frogs." Marcus lifted her up. "That's wonderful." Sophia smiled, but it was smaller, more uncertain. "Some kids asked why we live with you. What did you tell them?" "That you're our family. Because you promised." Marcus's heart twisted. "That's exactly right." On the way home they stopped at the park. The afternoon light was soft and golden, the kind Elena had loved to photograph. The girls ran to the swings while Marcus sat on a bench under the oak trees. That's when she appeared. A woman in a dark coat, her badge clipped to her belt. She sat down beside him without asking. "Mr. Collins." Her voice was calm, professional. "I'm Detective Lorna Hayes. May I have a word?" Marcus turned to look at her. "About what?" "Isabella Cruz. There were inconsistencies in her hospital records. I need to confirm a few things." "What kind of inconsistencies?" "Her medical file lists her as having no next of kin. Yet someone paid all her bills in cash. No traceable record. We thought it might be an anonymous donor, but the hospital flagged it after your press conference." Marcus stiffened. "My wife handled those expenses." Detective Hayes nodded slowly. "Then perhaps you can help us locate where the payments originated." "It's likely nothing. But there's been talk that Angela was pressured by someone to sign certain documents before she passed." The word pressured hung in the air like smoke. "I'll cooperate fully." Marcus kept his voice steady. "But I can tell you right now my wife would never hurt her. I believe that." Detective Hayes stood. "But I think someone else might have." She walked away and Marcus sat there for a long moment. The girls' laughter echoed across the park, but it sounded distant now, muffled by the sudden weight pressing down on his chest. That night after the girls went to bed, Marcus went to Elena's study. The room had remained untouched for 3 years. Her books still lined the shelves. Her fountain pen still rested on the desk. The air still smelled faintly of lavender and old paper. He opened her laptop. The screen flickered to life, requesting a password. He tried their wedding date, her birthday, the name of their first dog. Nothing worked. Then he saw it. A file on the desktop labeled Isabella Final Trust. He clicked it and a message appeared. Encrypted. Password required. Marcus leaned back in the chair. His pulse was racing now. Elena never hid things from him. Not like this. Unless she'd been protecting someone. Or protecting him from something. The girls were already awake when he came downstairs. They were eating cereal at the kitchen table, their legs swinging. "You look fancy," Lily observed. "I have an important meeting." Sophia looked up. "Are you nervous?" "A little. Mama used to say being brave means doing the thing even when you're scared." Marcus knelt down beside her chair. "Your mama was very wise." The boardroom at Collins Enterprises was on the 40th floor, all glass and steel with a view of the entire city spread out below like a kingdom. The board members were already seated when Marcus arrived. 12 people in expensive suits, their faces carefully neutral. Robert Davidson sat at the head of the table. His silver hair was perfectly combed. His expression calm and controlled like always. "Mr. Collins." Davidson's voice was smooth as oil. "We were surprised by your request for an emergency meeting. I assume this is about the ongoing media situation." "This isn't about the media." Marcus's tone was low but sharp. "It's about you." A murmur ran through the room. Davidson blinked once, then forced a polite smile. "Me?" Marcus placed a thick folder on the table in front of him. "These are records of your personal transactions through the Grace Outreach Fund. You used my wife's name to establish a fraudulent charity. You stole from it. And you manipulated a dying woman into signing over her property. Davidson's smile faltered. Those are serious accusations, Richard. They're also true. Marcus kept his voice steady. And before you deny it, I've already handed copies of this evidence to Detective Lorna Hayes. The room erupted. Voices overlapping, chairs scraping back. Davidson's face had gone pale. You're destroying yourself. Davidson's voice rose for the first time. Do you have any idea what this will do to the company? I don't care about the company's reputation. Marcus's words cut through the chaos. I care about justice. I care about two little girls who lost their mother because men like you thought you could bury the truth. Davidson slammed his hand on the table. You think you can take me down? I built this firm long before you ever took over. I know every contract. Every offshore account. Then maybe the police will find your memory useful. Marcus nodded toward the door. Because you won't be doing it from this office. Two security officers stepped forward. Davidson's face went from pale to white. His eyes darted around the room looking for allies but found none. You'll regret this. He hissed as they led him toward the door. Elena didn't die as innocent as you think she did. The door closed behind him. The sound echoed in the sudden silence. Marcus turned back to the remaining board members. His voice carried the weight of something irrevocable. From today, Forward Collins Enterprises will rebuild itself around transparency. If that means losing profit, so be it. We've lost enough humanity already. No one argued. No one dared. After the meeting, Marcus drove straight to the school. It was only 2:30, but he couldn't wait another 30 minutes. He needed to see the girls. Needed to remember what this was all for. They were waiting by the gate when he pulled up, both grinning. You're early, Sophia said. I missed you. Lily climbed into the car. Did your meeting go okay? It went exactly how it needed to. On the way home, they stopped for ice cream even though it was cold outside. The girls got chocolate with rainbow sprinkles, and they sat at a picnic table watching cars go by. Uncle Marcus, Sophia said suddenly. Are we going to stay with you forever? Marcus looked at her. At both of them. At these two small souls who'd walked into his life and changed everything. Do you want to? Yes. They said it at the same time. Then yes. Forever. That evening Detective Hayes called. Davidson's in custody. We found evidence linking him to several forged documents, including Angela's will. You did the right thing, Mr. Collins. Thank you, Detective. Marcus kept his voice steady. But this isn't over, is it? No. There's still the question of who financed Davidson's operation. He didn't act alone. Marcus looked at the photo on his desk. Elena holding a newborn in the hospital, her smile bright with hope. Then we'll find out. For her. For them. After hanging up, Marcus went upstairs. The girls were in their room, drawing at the small table by the window. Their artwork covered the walls now. Rainbows and stars and stick-figure families. One new drawing caught his eye. A man holding hands with two little girls. Above them, drawn in yellow crayon, were two angels watching from the clouds. Underneath, in careful letters, Our family forever. Marcus's eyes stung. He touched the drawing gently. We're going to be all right. He whispered it more to himself than to them. The weeks that followed brought a strange kind of peace. Davidson's arrest made headlines, but Marcus didn't read them. The board underwent restructuring. The company's stock fluctuated. None of it mattered anymore. What mattered was Saturday morning pancakes, bedtime prayers, helping with homework, teaching the girls to ride bikes in the garden while Mrs. Chen watched from the porch, laughing at their wobbling attempts. Winter came early that year. Snow fell soft and quiet, covering the estate in white. The girls had never seen real snow before, and they stood at the window with their faces pressed to the glass, their breath fogging up the panes. Can we go outside? Lily's voice was full of wonder. Marcus bundled them into coats and scarves, and they spent the afternoon building a snowman in the garden. Their laughter echoed across the frozen ground, and for a moment, just a moment, Marcus could almost hear Elena laughing with them. That night after the girls went to bed, Marcus sat in his study with Elena's journal open in his lap. He turned to a blank page near the end and picked up her fountain pen. His hand shook slightly as he began to write. "We did it. The girls are safe. The foundation lives. Your promise is fulfilled. But I've learned something you already knew. Love doesn't end with loss. It begins again in those who carry it forward. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Isabella, for saving all of us." He closed the journal gently and set it on the desk. Then he looked up at Elena's portrait hanging above the fireplace. Her painted eyes seemed to gleam softly in the lamplight. "Rest easy, my love. Your light will never go out." Outside, the wind stirred through the trees, gentle and whispering. And somewhere deep in the quiet of the house it almost sounded like her voice saying, "I know." Spring arrived slowly, hesitant at first, then bursting forward with color and warmth. The garden that had been overgrown and wild began to bloom again. Sophia and Lily planted flowers by the stone bench, their small hands covered in dirt, their faces bright with concentration. Marcus stood watching them, his sleeves rolled up, a peace settling over him that he hadn't felt in years. In April, the foundation held a grand reopening. The Collins estate had been transformed, part of it converted into a community center. The new wing, bright with windows and painted in warm colors, bore a plaque by the entrance. "The Angela Bennett Children's Center. In memory of a mother's love and a promise kept." The ceremony was small but meaningful. Families who'd been helped by the foundation came to show their support. News cameras captured the moment, but for once Marcus didn't mind. This wasn't about scandal or redemption. This was about something real. Sophia and Lily stood beside him in matching white dresses with yellow ribbons in their hair. When it was time for Marcus to speak, he kept it simple. 2 years ago I found these girls at my wife's grave. I thought I was rescuing them. The truth is they rescued me. This place exists because 2 women believed love was stronger than death. I'm just the one who gets to carry it forward." The crowd applauded. Sophia squeezed his hand. "You did good, Dad." The word stopped him. "Dad." "Not Uncle Marcus. Just Dad." He looked down at her. "Say that again." She smiled. "You did good, Dad." Mia nodded. "Mrs. Whitmore and Mama are proud. I can feel it." Marcus's throat tightened. "Then that's all that matters." After the ceremony, they walked through the new center. Children's laughter echoed off the walls. Families gathered in the common room, sharing food and stories. In the corner, a photo gallery displayed pictures of Elena and Isabella side by side. 2 women who'd never met in life, but whose legacies were forever intertwined. That evening, as the sun set, Marcus took the girls back to the garden. They sat on Elena's bench, the 3 of them squeezed together, watching fireflies begin to dance in the fading light. "Do you think they can see us?" Lily asked. "I know they can." Marcus said it with certainty. "Are they happy?" "I think they're smiling." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Sophia spoke quietly. "I'm glad Mama told us to find Mrs. Whitmore's grave that day." "Me too." Marcus pulled them both closer. "Me too." The fireflies drifted higher, their lights blinking like tiny stars falling upward. And in that moment, sitting between 2 little girls who'd lost everything and found everything again, Marcus Whitmore finally understood what Elena had been trying to teach him all along. Love wasn't something you fell into or out of. It wasn't a feeling that came and went with the seasons. It was work. Hard, messy, complicated work that required you to show up every single day, even when you didn't know how. Especially when you didn't know how. The next morning was Saturday. Pancake Day. The girls woke him up by jumping on his bed, their laughter infectious and wild. "Dad." Sophia was grinning. "We're hungry." "Then I guess we better make pancakes." They tumbled downstairs together, a tangle of pajamas and bedhead and pure joy. In the kitchen, Mrs. Chen already had the griddle heating, the butter melting into golden pools. Marcus taught them how to flip the pancakes, how to watch for the bubbles before you turn them. Lily got batter on her nose. Sophia accidentally flipped one onto the floor, and they all laughed so hard they had to sit down. Later, plates piled high with pancakes and blueberries. They sat at the table in the morning light. Marcus looked at the girls, at their smiling faces sticky with syrup, and felt something settle in his chest. This was what mattered. Not board meetings or stock prices or what strangers said in newspaper articles. Just this. Two little girls who'd walked into his grief and taught him how to live again. "I love you both." He said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Because it was. "We love you too, Dad." They said it together. And in that moment, in the golden light of a Saturday morning with pancakes and laughter and love filling every corner of the house, Marcus Whitmore finally came home. The story of Marcus Whitmore teaches us that redemption isn't about wealth or reputation. It's about courage. About choosing compassion even when the world tells you to protect yourself. It's about honoring promises made by people who can't keep them anymore and trusting that love is stronger than loss. Through two orphaned girls, a man who'd lost everything found what truly mattered. He learned that real legacy isn't measured in dollars or headlines. It's measured in lives protected, in promises kept, in showing up every day even when it's hard. Sometimes the family we're meant to have doesn't look like we expected. Sometimes it finds us in cemeteries and hospital rooms and moments of impossible grief. But when it does, when love calls us to something bigger than ourselves, the only question that matters is this: will we answer? Marcus answered. And in doing so he discovered that the light his wife left behind wasn't fading. It was just waiting for someone brave enough to carry it forward. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of what really matters, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment telling us about a promise you've kept or a time when love transformed everything. And subscribe to Untold Desires by Mr. Lewis for more stories that don't just entertain but change the way we see the world. Because in the end, we're all just trying to keep the light burning. And sometimes all it takes is one person willing to say yes when life asks them to love bigger than they knew they could. Marcus said yes. The girls said yes. Elena and Isabella, even in death, said yes. And their light, that beautiful impossible light, will never go out.